So we got the 89-inch Super Decathlon, Dynaflite Super Decathlon wing, basically all framed up, minus a few little things that we got to take care of before we actually get this thing all covered up and all. Alright. We're gonna start doing the bulkheads. We got bulkheads number 4, 5, and 6, and this we are going to be assembling this out of 1/4 by 1/2 inch by 30-inch balsa stock, to include the 1/4 by 1/4 30-inch stock balsa sticks. And we're just gonna go ahead and build this accordingly to the plans, just like so. Alright guys, so there you go. That is the bulkheads for the Super Decathlon. We got bulkhead number 4, 5, and 6 all pretty much framed up. So now we're gonna go ahead and start doing the side of the fuselage, the fuselage sides. Alright. Alright guys, so we got both side frames for the Dynaflite Super Decathlon framed up. We got the bottom and top side frame ply glued together. Alright, we got the lungerons top and bottom trimmed and fitted and glued to include the die cut rear fuse side, which is this part right here. Alright, so the lungerons top and bottom, they weren't just punched out from the die cut sheet and slapped on there. You actually had to go in there and follow the plans, cut, shape, trowel, fit. So all this here had to get cut because they were just a little oversized, and so I had to cut it, sand it, shape it, and get it to butt up nicely against the forward fuse side. Alright, and then also for the rear. So the first fuselage is underneath here. You can see there's 2. Alright, so the first fuse side I built over the plan, and then once that was done, we basically put cling wrap over that whole assembly and built the second side frame on top of the first. That way we align the side frames, the longerons, and the rear fuse side, making sure that they both will mimic each other 100%. Fuse side completely framed up as far as the basic outline of it. Now it's time to go ahead and start building it up, adding the stringers, the formers, and all that good stuff. Alright, as you can tell, the fuselage. Alright, so we got the fuselage sides. This time completed, framed up, one complete side. This is the right hand side, and then we also got the left hand side. And yes, we did make a left and we did make a right. And so how you see the fuse position here on the table, doing it this way would ensure that you will glue the doublers on the correct side. Now if you have it this way and you glue the doublers on top just like such, it would be wrong. Alright, so other than that, we got the fuse size completely done. Now what we're going to do, as you can see, we got on the table, we got the bottom plate, alright, or cabin deck, I guess is what it's called, deck plate. Alright, so we got this down, and what we're going to do is we're going to grab some of the formers and we're going to start just puzzling it together, boxing it up, and we're going to hold it all together with some rubber bands. Yeah, just get it all locked in there before we add any glue. Alright, so we're going to situate everything first. Alright guys, so went ahead and just mocked up the Decathlon, Dynaflite Super Decathlon. The fuse is not even glued together, it's just rubber band and some T-pins holding everything. I think it is. So, I started, I think, November 27, 28. Yeah, and like I said, not every day I've been working on it. Sometimes 2 days I don't even work on it. So, you know, here and there. So this is where I'm at within, what, 12 days? Alright guys, before I glue this on, I just want to make sure that I cover this, just in case somebody accidentally reads over the instruction or skips it by accident. Alright, now former 4, the one that we built up, right, this is number 4. This is the top section, bottom section. This is the one that goes in right like this, right in here. Alright, okay, so you need to cut a little clearance for the window to slide in between the side of the fuse and this former. If you don't do it and it's time to install the windows later, once everything's all said and done, you will not be able to slide your window through. Alright, and so this is the included window pane side glass that comes with the kit. It has a film protector on top and bottom to protect it from getting scratched. So you would basically cut this, and this would be inserted from the inside and slide in and get glued in like such. Alright, now if you do not cut that little notch, this is going to be butted up against the inside, flush mounted to the side of the fuse, and you will not be able to get the window past that. Alright, and so, and to cut it when it's already inside the fuse is going to be a little bit more challenging. So I went off the plans, found the mark, I don't know if you can see it there. Alright, just like that. The inner side here, this mark, this is the actual opening of the actual window, which is the edges, and this is how much past that we would have to go further down. Alright, and so what I'm doing here to get the thickness, so now you can just get your ruler, measure the window pane, the thickness of the Lexan. Alright, but in this case what I'm doing is I'm just going to go ahead and plop this down on something flat at my tick marks that I had made earlier, and I'm just going to run my pen and connect the lines and connect the dot type deal from here, from that mark to this mark and back. Alright, so that right there will be the exact thickness I need to cut off of this window frame, or former 4, That way when we do glue this in later on, once we're done with the model and it's time to put this on, we could just cut this to the exact width, and we can actually just slide it through. Alright. Okay, so we got former 4 installed. We're just basically press fit down. Alright, everything is all square, 90 degrees to the building board, to the side of the fuse, to the actual base plate, as you can see right here. Straight, up and down. Alright. And the F4 has been notched already to accept the window, the side windows. Once the plane, the kit's basically built, we can go ahead and slide that window from the inside and then glue it at the edge here. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to glue this in. So ensuring that the side of the fuse is lined up with the plans. Alright, now this is the most critical part for one, because this is going to set everything from here on back to the tail. Alright, if you're crooked here, you're not following the plans, your tail section is going to suffer at the end, especially if you develop any twist, if your side frames are not 90 degrees, etc, etc. Alright, so if you were to come back over here to the tail section, and you also want to ensure that this whole thing is also situated over the plans. And the way you can do that as well, since it's so high above the plan, you can take your square, butt it up against the edge, the bottom edge here, to the line of the fuselage. And what it's going to do, it's going to line up the fuse to the plans while also keeping it 90 degrees. Alright, so in case your fuse is completely cocksided like that and you're just gonna eyeball it, trust me, if you eyeball it, it's gonna be off. Alright, so your best bet is to get a square. You can plop it over the plan, just like such. You can see right here at the tip, right down here, is touching the plan. And since this is a 90 degree angle here, you can see the side of my fuse touching completely all the way up. Alright, now that will ensure, like you said, ensure that this side of the plan is lined up with the fuse. Alright, and that will keep it pretty much straight up and down and following the plans all the way through. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start gluing former 4. Get this thing all attached. Alright, also make sure that this is also 90 degrees. Everything, the former F4 is actually touching down onto the bottom plate. You got to make sure of that as well. And once it's all said and done, we can glue this in. So we know that's 90 degrees. I want to make sure that my side frame is also touching. is still straight. 90 degrees. Roger that. All right. Remove this. Band here no more. I'm kind of just jumping around back and forth. We went ahead and we glued the firewall, epoxied it, 30-minute epoxy onto the fuselage. Everything is on 90 degrees. You can see my square right here. The pillar here, I just went ahead and just popped it on here. It's not glued on yet. I just wanted to kind of put it on there. And what I'm doing as well is the wing bolt plate, the ply, and also this wing bolt block. All this right now is what I'm doing is cutting, measuring, shaping, cutting, and doing all that just to kind of speed up the process. And so I went ahead and I already measured, cut the ply that I fit in here. And then right now what I'm doing, as you can see, I already cut the angle. And so now what I'm doing is outlining where the excess material needs to be removed. Alright, so just popping it in there, just kind of getting it all situated so that when time comes, I can go ahead and take care of that really easy. Alright, so right here I'm just marking it out. And so, once again, all this is going to get removed. All this right here, this is all going to get removed. I'm going to use my rasp to get further down, get all the excess material off, and from there, so all that's going to get removed. And then we'll be left with just this block that will get epoxied down in here, together with the birch ply wing bolt plate. Alright, so until then, we got that already all done. We just gotta cut that down. I know this is not a it's not really like a how-to video compared to like my Top Flight Cessna 182, the Top Flight P40. It's a little different. I'm just kind of all over the place. But yeah, other than that, just waiting for the epoxy to dry here. Once that dries, I can go ahead and remove this whole assembly off of the top view of the plans, because I'm going to utilize the top view of the plans to get my angle that this needs to be shaved at, right? Because since everything is all square and the fuse tapers to the back, this to fit properly in between the fuse sides has to get tapered slightly. And so I'm going to put this over the plan. I'm going to mark out exactly what angle, and then we're going to go ahead and sand it completely. All right, so that's what we're doing. Alright guys, so we got the servo doohickey thing pretty much assembled. We got this glued in, alright, and we also got the tail section here. I got this 30-minute epoxied on, and also the landing gear block. Now as you can see, if you're going through the rear, you look straight down there, right where the end of the square is touching the side frame on the plan, and then looking straight up, also touching the side of the fuse. All right, and so we know for a fact that this portion of the fuse is aligned with the actual plan, going straight forward, going up. So looking at the actual fuse. If I can get it to focus. All right, don't worry about that. That's this one right here. I popped it down by accident. I was too busy doing something else. But anywho, that's that all the way down. So everything, just waiting for that to cure. The 30-minute epoxy. Everything is all nice and squared up. Also gonna epoxy the servo tray up on here. All right, and this right here was supposed to be a little thicker. I cut that down. I followed the plans when I built this up. Well, yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna go ahead and take a piece of stock. I'm gonna put it right up to there, glue it a little bit over, and we'll just sand that flush. All right, too easy. All right, guys. So that's where we're at so far. Cool. So the firewall is pretty much all dry. Good to go right here. So I went ahead and I removed the T-pins, and so now the whole fuse is loose and ready to rock. All right, so as you can see, that's pretty much the wing bolt block right here. It's on there just like that. We got the birch ply plate in there as well. That will get 30-minute epoxy in there, and all this is going to get epoxied in there as well, just like that. All right, the servo tray is clamped in there with 30-minute epoxy, extra strength, and yeah. Other than that, it's turned out pretty good. Roughly about an hour of work so far into this, about an hour and a half maybe, somewhere on there. Guys, so what we're going to be doing now is we are at that stage where we're going to attach the wing to the fuselage. All right, now before we do that, we actually have to take care of some things, and the first thing is mainly getting the drill bit to the proper depth that we will be drilling this dowel plate. All right, so the drill bit has to go through the front pillar here. All right, then it's gonna go through 2 sets of ply, 1/8 ply, which is this one and this one, which is basically the whole front pillar. Then it's gonna go through the wing dowel plate, which is right back here, and then on the main spar there's a 1/8 piece ply shear web, and in the back of that spar another 1/8 ply shear web. All right, so we gotta ensure, as you can see here on the plans, this is exactly what I was talking about. Front plate, the 3, and then the shear web back. All right, so we have to prepare the drill bit so we don't drill past that first shear web ply. We don't want to go through the whole thing. We just want to go through that first ply. All right, so you're gonna see right there, this is that front pillar, which is this one right here. All right, and I just put a piece of tape. Where's that? There you go. I put a piece of tape right there. So once my tape gets close to that pillar, then I should be able to feel the penetration of that drill bit through the ply. But in case I don't, I got that tape as a reference. So once that tape is almost butted up to the front of this face right here, I should stop. All right, and that should get us right there. All right, so yep, that's what we're going to be doing. And what I did, I also centered the wing right smack down the center. Made sure I had an equal space on both sides here. Also centered the back trailing edge with a mark for the center line. I also put a T-pin at the way back. I got a string dangling off of there, and I went ahead, just temporarily, I went to each wingtip and I measured to get equal distance, so I know that we're somewhat in the ballpark. All right, and once we get the two dowels up front drilled in and all, then before we actually drill the wing bolt plate in the back for the actual bolts, then we'll actually get the wing, you know, nice and true with the string method. All right, so this one we're going to go ahead and do. We got to make sure that we are, you know, straight going in. We're not cock-sighted or anything. That's going to be the challenge. All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and go for it. Went ahead and I positioned the plane this way so we can go ahead and better visual, hopefully. Yep, go ahead and drill this. All right, let's go see if we got this. So we're just going to go straight in, just like that. You know, the best thing to do is put like a level on this thing. Okay, I'm just going to start with that first. Alright, so we got that going on. Now, let's go through the whole thing. You know what? I think I do have... Oh, it's alright. I think I got this. Straight in, straight in. Alright. That was one. Let's go with this one. Alright, let's go ahead and let's go put this on here first. Leave that like that. All right, ladies and gentlemen. We did it. Alright. And we're going to epoxy this dowel in there, of course. All the way to the back, just like so. Alright, so. Yeah. Alright, we got it. stuff. All right, so we got the dowels inserted. So I cut a 3.5-inch piece of dowel. So this was a 7-inch piece. Just cut that in half, and we inserted that all the way through until it touched the back shear web, which is this one right here. So that's what it's hitting. Once it gets there, we should have about 1/2 inch up front, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to round, kind of round the front of these dowels. All right, and yeah, so that's that. And then we're going to go ahead now and situate the wing, make sure it is basically in line with the fuse, and we got equal distance. All right, so what we're doing now is we are situating the wing on the fuselage to ensure it is straight and within that same measurement distance from the wingtip to the tail section. All right, so I got a little tick mark here. I'm pulling the string just right when it gets taut, and that's where my mark is at. I'm going to go to the opposite side and make sure that this mark lands in the same spot on the wingtip. If not, then I'm going to have to readjust the wing. And so far, so good. All right, so we are right smack on the money. And right now what we're going to do is we're going to drill right down in these two marks in the center with a 1364 drill bit, and then we're going to come back in, remove the wing, and we're going to tap the wing bolt plate and the filler block with a 1/4 by 20 tap. So we're on the last stretch of this build. So, well, I'm saying last stretch, but once I'm done doing the top sheeting here, from there we will do the front, build that up, then we'll do the bottom section, the belly pan area. All right, so not that much left. To tell you the truth, not that much left. So I'll make sure I don't glue my wing on here. So I'm just gonna put CA right by here. We're not gonna put too much yet over here. I can easily use thin CA later, but just to hold it in place for now. All right, so I'm gonna butt it up against that, pull it back slightly so we can get some covering. space as well. Let me go ahead and plop it down there. That's about good. So we need. Okay. When we get to that part, we can remove the wing, and then we can do the. As a matter of fact, I can move the wing now. It'll be okay to safeguard the wing. Doesn't get damaged. But I just want to keep going. All right. So what I'm doing is just I'm gonna go down the line. We're just gonna add the sheet on here. Now I did true up the edges of the sheet off camera. Just took the straight edge and went the full length of the sheet and trimmed off the excess, or trimmed off the ones that are kind of crooked. So that's the reason why when you butt it up, it's a nice tight fit right here. All right, so, and I did that to all the sheets off camera just to speed up the process. I have many videos already showing how to sheet, how to properly, or how I do it to situate your sheeting before you edge glue them and stuff. So if you want to check that out, I got a few videos on YouTube. So and then from there, just same thing, get a rag and just wipe that off, and all that's gonna get sanded anyhow, so I'm not gonna see any of that. And anyways, there's gonna be a spline that runs the full length of this as well, so the covering is not actually sitting on the sheet here. The covering will kind of go above and then come back down. All right, so I just want to get this going, you know, just one by one, just keep going down the line. So let's go flip it this way. That's a better seam. Put some CA on that too. Excellent. Mighty fine. All right, so let's go. Just gonna make this quicker. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I was just working on the front end and I just totally forgot I should be recording. But anywho, so I got my sheet that I basically just mocked up real quick, oversized to cut. That way I don't have to be so precise at the moment. Right, wet the outside. You can use ammonia, you can use Windex. This is just plain water. The sheet's only 3/32, so it's not that thick. All right, and then you can either start from the bottom side like this, glue that down, and then work your way up like so, or you can start from the center and work your way down to this piece right here. But that's what I'm gonna do to get the actual cut line. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some chalk just like this, and I'm going to highlight the edge of this piece of ply, or this sheet of ply right here. This is where this 3/32 sheet is going to butt up against and glue on. So I want to get this edge. I'm going to coat that with some chalk. All right, and then I'm going to place this here, and just making sure that I am over my formers. All right, really butting up this piece right here. Then I'm going to wrap it down, and then I'm going to push onto that edge. Should have an outline. I don't know if you can see it through the camera. You see my outline there. And then I'm going to come over and I'm just going to trim that outline. I'm just going to trim that off. Alright. Then I'm going to get my wet napkin again. Wet that in there again because water kind of dried up a little. Because we don't want this sheet to crack. Alright. We're going to go ahead, and this time when we're gluing this on, we're going to actually start from down here. We're going to glue this edge first, and once we glue this one, we're going to bring it back up, wrap it around, and we'll come up to here. Alright, and then from here I'll show you another thing that I would do. Alright, because this one I didn't glue this piece here yet. This is still loose. I didn't glue the rail just yet here, so I'm gonna do this real quick. I'm gonna use medium CA for this piece. I'm just gonna put some medium CA on this stringer. Make it go up. Okay. Just like that. I'm going to place this right where I believe I need it to be. Push down, making sure I'm getting good contact. Alright. I'm going to use my sanding T-bar to put even pressure while pulling the sheet all the way around. Okay, and so now that my sheet on the top here has overlapped this one, I want to get a perfect seam. So while that is overlapping, I'm going to go ahead and take my X-Acto blade now. I'm just going to run by tracing where that end of the sheet is at. Okay, so we got that. So we can go ahead and remove that piece. That's the reason why I didn't push the glue all the way to this edge here. Alright, so we'll just use thin CA, and we'll just thin CA this thing on here. I did kind of put the glue just a little bit too much, too close to the sheet here, but that's alright. As long as we don't break the sheet, we're fine. So, food for thought. You're gonna do this one. Make sure you don't put glue up to, give enough room so you can actually move the sheet away. I was actually gonna go the opposite way, but you know what? I already committed, so it is what it is. There you go. Just make sure it's not. Alright, so from here, we can just use our T-bar sander to kind of push that seam down, or that edge, and you will have a perfect seam or joint right at this area right here. Alright, so now you can just basically take your thin CA, and I can put thin CA right up on this. I gotta look for where the seam is at. I made it basically seamless, but we're just gonna put thin CA straight down. I believe this is the center, just like that, and then just wipe it off. Alright, so that's how I would do that. There's many different ways to do that. That's just one of the many that I normally do, but every situation is gonna be different. It all depends on the situation, the location, or what you're doing, and then you just adapt and make up your plan and go with it. Alright, so that's pretty much the front end, and then from here we're just going to trim all this off and sand it flush to the instrument panel, and then also this front end here will sand this flush to the firewall, and we'll be good to go. And then from here we're going to build up the bottom, the whole bottom belly pan area, and then this plane, the fuse will be like 98% complete. All we have to do is glue on the horizontal and vertical fin, rudder, doohickey, and we'll be good to go. Alright guys, so we are sheeting the bottom of the fuse here. As you can see, we got formers 1 and 2 underneath here, and with these two formers we got this 1/8 balsa sheet that was basically cut, edge glued together, and now placed over the two formers. I went ahead and I soaked the balsa to get it nice and pliable, and since it's all nice and wet, it's soaked in water, I went ahead and just taped it down so we can get it to form without any cracking. And while it's drying at the same time, it will hold its shape. At least it'll be relaxed. Alright, so once it's all dry, I can take off the tape, and we can just start putting glue and getting it all stuck onto the former. And then from there we will basically cut it off, and then this will get sanded and then tapered up just like that. All right, and then we will start doing formers 3, 4, 5, and 6 respectively, and then we'll add the stringers, we'll taper the stringers, and then we'll also cut the sheets to finish up the whole belly pan portion of the build. Once the belly pan is done, really it is just small details like gluing on the horizontal stab, getting it aligned with the wing, vertical fin, hooking up the cowling, putting it all together. Fiberglass Specialties, I reached out to you guys through email. Wanted to go ahead and give it a try for the first time to order fiberglass cowl and the wheel pants for this particular model, but I didn't get no response, and it's been already going on 2 weeks now, so you know what, I guess it is what it is. And so I'll just continue using the plastic parts. I have no problem with it. So yeah, other than that, it's looking like this will be done by today. And yeah, we'll just be waiting for the engine, the monocoat, the electronics, and all that stuff, because I didn't think I was gonna really finish it up within this allotted time. So yeah, other than that, we're good. All right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and sand this portion here. And so you can see how it pretty much goes overlap there. This portion is glued to this stringer, which the stringer was tapered to follow the contour of the formers. All right. And so from here, we will go ahead and sand this pretty much flush with the side of the fuselage. All right, so normally just gonna hold this down like that. Okay, so just like that, and then we come back over here and get the trusty vacuum. kidding. Maybe not the trusty vacuum. All right, and so just like that, we got the front portion pretty much sanded, as you can see. Now from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand the sheeting here flush with this former, and also flush with this former right here. All right, just like that. All right, and then once we get done sheeting the rest, we'll come back and we'll just kind of blend this thing in, kind of round it off slightly. All right, guys, so we got the back portion of the belly pan pretty much formed up here. Like I said, I'm just jumping around. Really not a how-to video, okay, guys? So it's just giving you a quick look exactly how I'm building it. But yeah, so I know we got a lot of decathlons out there, Satabrias and all that stuff, and you know the lines and the shape. You know, there's certain models, certain kits that mimic the real thing. This one is not. All right, so I mean, it's just a fun scale. It gives you that basic look, but not completely to scale. All right, so and a lot of parts here are lacking the curves, the lines, and all that stuff. But you know what? Hey, it's still a fun build. It's a very easy build. Maybe not your first kit, but maybe a second kit. All depends on you. But for me, doing this for over 40 years, this is, to me, is a very easy kit. You know, just too easy. But even with that said, what's easy for me might be hard for some. So take it with a grain of salt. I just wanted to just say that this particular model is an easy kit for me. In other words, compared to like Top Flight P40, Cessna, I mean the Ultra Sport's even harder than this. I would classify the Ultra Sport like 2 times harder than this particular model. All right, so yeah, that once again, take it with a grain of salt. That still doesn't make any, you know, difference, because that's based on my perspective and, you know, my experience. But anywho, with that said, we're gonna go ahead and close this bad boy up right here. So as you can see, we got the stringers, we got it pretty much tapered. It's all sanded to the side to mimic the flow of the former. All right, and so this one is gonna get glued on just like such. It's gonna go halfway on this former. That way the next former can butt up against there and have some sort of back support. All right, and this is gonna get glued on there, and eventually it's all gonna get sanded and shaped, kind of rounded off slightly. And as you can see when we get to the other side here, exactly what it's gonna look like. All right, so just with that, and then we'll kind of round off those lines just a tad bit. But yeah, that's how it's gonna look. All right, so continuing on. Alright guys, so that is the back side of the belly pan, as you can see right there. We can get a good angle on that. Alright, so that's pretty much what we're trying to do here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the centerpiece first from here to here, and then we're going to sand that edge with for that taper to allow the next sheet to come just exactly how we did this one. And once we get all that, then we'll go ahead and sand everything all nice and flush, and we'll start on the landing gear plate in the inside. We got to epoxy that, then we'll pop in the landing gear, drill the 3/16 holes for that as well, and then put the blind nuts in the inside, and then we'll cut this portion out for the strut. Alright, but other than that, yeah, and then we'll go ahead and start working back on the horizontal fin, the rudder, horizontal stabilizer, elevator, vertical fin, and rudder assembly. We need to go ahead and final sand that, since we did not do that in the beginning. I just put it to the side just so that I can move on. So now we could go ahead and concentrate on that, get that all sanded, rounded, beveled, and all that, so we can go ahead and glue that onto the fuselage. All right. Guys, so what we got going on now is pretty much the horizontal stabilizer epoxy onto the fuselage. And so what we did was we took a string and we did our measurements from different points of the wingtip. Alright, so I went from the leading edge corner to the intersection where the spar meets the wingtip, and also the trailing edge corner. Alright, so I did 3 different measurements to this point as a reference at the tip of that stab. Alright, and each time I got exact from there to there, there to there, and there to there. Same with this side. So yeah, it's as straight as it's gonna be with my eyesight and all, so it is what it is. And then you can also check from this view, making sure that it's also in line with the wing and all, as close as possible. It is how I got it. So yeah, epoxy is curing right now, just waiting for it to completely cure so I could bring it in and epoxy on the vertical fin. Alright guys. Alright guys. Alright, so we got horizontal stab, vertical fin, elevators and rudder hinged, bevel pretty much installed. Alright, so everything is good to go here. I just finished installing the, whatever you want to call this, trim piece right up here. Alright, to give it that effect, you know, when the covering goes over. What I need to do next is I need to fill this area right here. Probably put a block right about here and then fill this in, and I'm just going to use balsa, fill that in, so be less wood filler. And yeah, so yep, that's the last of this build. Really, it's just basically that, and really it's minor stuff after this. Really, cutting out the door. I do want to cut out this door like I did my first one, so I'm going to cut this out. Also cut out the window on that side. I also got my dash panel that I made. This one here, we're going to go ahead and glue that in as well, and then I'm going to basically cover this with the flat black monocoat. All right, but I'm thinking I'll do that maybe after. No, I'll cover it. I'll glue it in. I was gonna actually glue that in after I cover it, so I could also just cover this whole thing, but you know what, I got it. But anywho, that's pretty much about it, really. And yeah, we got this whole section done and that much closer to getting this aircraft final sanded and covered. So our nylon strut end, all right, this is gonna go and get threaded onto this threaded rod, just like so. And we're gonna thread all this all the way in eventually. So this is gonna get threaded in, say about halfway, if anything. But the rest of it is actually gonna get threaded into the strut, like so, in the center. All right. So this is basically how it's gonna attach to the bottom side of the fuselage, and then on the top it's going to attach to the wing like such. All right, and so we need to drill a 1/8 hole through this basswood stock. All right, so you see this right here, this end, it's where I marked it, and that's where I'm going to drill that hole and hopefully get it in line and not cock-sided. We don't want to drill this and be crooked like this, or end up protruding out on one side or the other. We definitely don't want it to be on there like that. All right, so we need to go straight in, and so that's what I'm going to be doing here. Now you can do, say we can do two things. You can utilize a smaller drill bit. The main hole, the end hole, is going to be 1/8. You can use a smaller drill bit and do like a pilot hole, maybe even a 1/16 bit, and do a pilot hole all the way through type deal. That way it's easier for the bigger drill bit, the 1/8 drill bit, to have a guide to follow through, and you don't have to push too hard. Either that or just go straight for the gusto and go right in. All right, so that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna go straight in. I believe through my experience that I should be okay to just drill right through here without making a mistake. Now, how I ensure that I am level, straight with the wood like this, all right, is exactly how you see me doing this right now. I'll put my finger on the table as a guide, and it's the reason why I'm not using a big drill bit. I mean a big hand drill. All right, I'm using the end of a Dremel, wand type deal. All right, so it's more comfortable, it's easier. I'll put my finger here, align my drill bit like that, so we know that this is straight. We're not gonna go like this or like that. You know, we're definitely not like this. All right, so we gotta ensure this motion. We have to ensure this motion all the way through. All right. So when we start the drill, I'm gonna pull it back, keeping everything level. I'm gonna pop this thing right in the center of that, and we're gonna go straight and push straight through like this. We're not gonna deviate. We're not gonna move, you know, angle or anything. The same way. That's the reason why my finger is right here on the table, because it's a guide, just like that. And I'm gonna push it in. All right. So let's go do one. Just like that. You're straight in there, and then we could basically come back in with the threaded rod here, and we can thread this all the way in halfway. This is going to get epoxied in here anyway, so thread helps grab, so it has something to bite in there, right? And then from there we'll eventually take one of the nylon mounts, and we'll go ahead and thread this on. Alright, so that's pretty much how I get these little buggers. I mean, they're really small, really thin, so you want to make sure you don't got no room for error. So you need to make sure you drill this thing straight the first time. Yeah, because if you go crooked and you pop it out one end or the other, you're not going to have enough material to make up the struts. Alright, hopefully that helps. Alright guys, so we got the door completely done. The only thing I didn't do was epoxy the actual hinges in there, only because we're going to wait until after covering to go ahead and do that. But in the meantime, you can go ahead and just open up. The door will swing open. And this is how I got the hinges. All right, let me go ahead and pull it out. All right, so you can see how I did that there. Just made a slot. And then the hinges on the door, just like such. All right. Now, these hinges as well, you can just pull the pin off. If, let's say this is already epoxied in, you can pull the pin out and the door still can come apart. All right, so went ahead and did that. Now, these bolts that you see in here, I need 3/4 inch. As you can see, I did not really tighten the blind nuts down on there just yet, but I need to get 3/4 inch bolts for this. That way it's not too long. But these are just the bolts that I got on hand, and so we're just going to use that for now, just to go ahead and situate everything. And then we also got the latch for the window, and the only way you can open this window is from the inside. So you just basically push it down and you can open up the window just like so. All right, and then you just push the latch down and completely close the window. And once again, window can only be open from the inside. All right, so that's how that is. And also the door latch for the main door. All right, so it's just basically a will collar, spring from a pin, and then your wire bent at an L right out here. It comes out, and then I cut the L shape. I made this little door thing, kind of hides the slot. Since the slot goes from point A to point B, it hides the slot as well, as you can see. So it gives it a nice, transition, nice look to it. And this one here, we can basically still remove this. I just tacked it on there onto the wire, so I can still remove that later on when it's time to cover, and then go ahead and either paint that up or cover it as well and then put it back on. All right, but yeah, so that's pretty much as simple as it can get. I did not come up with this idea. This idea is actually from my Hanger 9 100cc Super Decathlon. The main door latch is basically like that, and also the window latch on that Decathlon is pretty much like that. All right, so yeah, I did not come up with this idea. I just copied that from my Hanger 9 Super Decathlon. And so we're just going to go ahead and put that back on here, right there, and we'll epoxy that in eventually. All right, and then just come back over here, close the door, and basically lock. Now on the 100cc Super Decathlon, what they did was they put a screw with a blind nut in the back here, and when before you fly, you basically put your 3mm screw and screw down the door right here at the edge. That way it doesn't flop open and all that stuff. Now my first Super Decathlon, same thing. Did the whole thing exactly the same. I did not put no screw up here. Once the Lexan is actually glued on here, they'll stiffen this all up right here. I did not have to put a screw. My door never flew off or anything like that. Now on the 100cc Super Decathlon, I forgot to put a screw on, and eventually my door flopped open and I lost the door, so I had to make a new door for my 100cc Decathlon. But other than that, yeah, that's pretty much what we got going on. Alrighty. So what I'm going to be showing you here is just pretty much how I get the plastic parts all put together. Alright, so I got the wheel pants here, And the wheel pan basically comes in a mold that you basically will trim based off the score marks that is around the perimeter of the piece that you need to cut out. And that right there, you're just gonna have to kind of look, kind of figure out where those lines are. Sometimes they're hard to see. The best way to do it is also to look through the inside, because the inside lines are more visible than the exterior lines. So when you're done cutting out, you should have a piece that kind of looks like this, with a flange on one side, right? So just like that. And then the other side, you just got your straight cut all the way around. All right. Now, these are plastic pieces, and they are going to be filled with some sort of automotive body filler, Bondo. Excuse me. Oh my God, what was that? Bondo, or I wouldn't use spot putty, because spot putty is just basically a filler for something that's like 1/8 inch deep. Anything more than that, you might as well use regular body filler. All right. Especially if you're using the spot putty, the spot and glaze, where you don't actually mix a hardener in it, then I wouldn't suggest. And they normally call it red oxide. You know, though that spot putty is good for, like, let's say after you primer the surface, and you got minor scratches, maybe anything less than 1/8 inch deep, you can apply that over. All right. Anything bigger than that, I suggest using a spot and glaze 2-part type of filler, or just go straight automotive body filler. All right, but the seams of this, to include the cowling here, all this is going to be filled around the perimeter with automotive body filler. It's not going to be that much, but you want to be able to put enough where it's going to transition nicely all the way around. All right, so you would put the body filler higher than normal, kind of not too thick, but you want it to be just a little bit more than flush. All right, and then you would sand everything down nice and smooth. So what I'm doing here, I got 120 grit sandpaper on my building table, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand the surface of this particular wheel pan here all the way to the actual score lines. I don't know if you could see it there, but I still have a score line going all the way around. And so what I'm going to do is just going to go back and forth, just lightly. And by doing this, I'm ensuring that we're sanding this nice and straight all the way around. All right. And so once we get this one done, I'll come around here. This one's not a big deal because this is the inside flange, but you know, it's still kind of crooked, so I'm just anal like that. So I'm just gonna make it straight. That's good enough for that. Once we're done with that, I'm gonna come around, and the inner part here, I'm just gonna take my T-bar sander and I'm just going to sand this portion here nice and straight. Remember, to fit and finish, you are in control of it. So if you want something to look nice, then take your time. You know? Some people are saying Well, you know, you can eliminate all that work. You just go through Fiberglass Specialties because they have the well pants in fiberglass and the cowling. Well, that's all nice and all, but I'm all the way here in the Pacific Island of Guam, and every time I go to Fiberglass Specialties, they don't have a slot there for the island of Guam when it comes to checkout, and so I'm left emailing Fiberglass Specialties, and this is the third time I emailed them, and I still 1 month later still haven't received a response back from Fiberglass Specialties in regards to the will pants and the cowling for the Super Decathlon Dynaflite kit. Alright, so yes, everyone who's stateside, awesome. Unfortunately, I'm not stateside. I am a U.S. territory here in the island of Guam. However, a lot of places stateside do not service the island of Guam, even though we're U.S. territory. So, with that dilemma, I never had any issues using the plastic parts that come in these kits. All the aircrafts that I got currently flying, from my Cessna Top Flight P40, my Extra 300, my Cargo Bird Extra Super Chipmunk, all have plastic cowlings, and they are just fine. All right. So I've been using the plastic cowlings for the kits since the 80s. So there you go. So this is basically what we come up with. We get the joint as close as possible, right? And you see how the front tips here doesn't have that flap or the flange, right? That's not a big deal, because the inside of this, we will lay a little bit of fiberglass in the inside towards the front here, the back here, and probably the bottom section on this area, since this is the one that takes a lot of the abuse during landing. We want to make sure that this area is kind of strong. All right, so we're gonna lay some fiberglass around in this corner, around here. All right, and then we'll call that done, and then we'll go ahead and fill this with body filler, and we'll be good to go. Same thing with the cowling, same deal. All right, we're gonna go ahead and in every single joint area, we're gonna lay some fiberglass. That way we're gonna ensure that it's strong and the joints will not come apart, because it's just CA'd together. All right, you can also line the whole inside if you wanted to with 3/4 ounce glass cloth and resin if you want it. Unnecessary weight, to be honest, but you can if you want. Alright, so with that said, I just wanted to come on here and kind of give you an idea of what we're doing with the plastic parts. Alright. Alright guys, well, we got the jury strut pretty much formed up. As you can see, we got it all enclosed and tapered, just close to the shape of the actual strut itself. All right, and as you can see how that attaches on there, it goes right up in there just like that. And what's in between this block right here is the my brass sleeve type deal. This is the square stock because my brass tubes are still en route through Amazon, so this will still work. And yeah, so that's sandwiched in between some ply and made into a box, and then it kind of protrudes down past this ply base here. And the reason that we got this base there, so that the monocoat can have something to grab onto, and then we could just burn the hole to allow this end of the rod to go in there. Same deal with the front, which I haven't done yet. I still need to cut this open, a square piece out of, I'm gonna make it out of ply, and then the same type of deal here. This is why I have this sleeve. I have to make another box up, and that's gonna get glued onto the actual rib as well for the front. All right, this one's gonna be a little harder because it's already sheeted, so I'm gonna have to cut it open, and it's gonna look like a patch when it's all said and done, but when it's covered, you're gonna see it. So yeah, but other than that, it's functional. It still provides strength, you know, for this, so less vibration and all that. So yeah, it works. And the reason I know this one would work, same deal with the Citabria, SIG Citabria. This is the same type of setup, and this is how I got the idea. All right, so that's that on that side, and also this side. So we got the jury struts on there. Kind of makes it look pretty cool as well. All right, guys. So we got one wing completely done as far as the jury struts are concerned, and the assembly of the wing, of course. All right, so this was the last portion of this build, was basically constructing the jury strut. For aesthetics, at the same time, I don't know if it's going to be really functional, but you know, I can't tell until it's actually in flight, and we'll see how it reacts. But based on the SIG Citabria, this is pretty much how the construction of the jury struts is written in the instructions for that. So I went ahead and I just duplicated here for this Dynaflite Super Decathlon. All right, so very simple. It's best if you could do this before you sheet the bottom portion of the wing. That way you can situate your brass tube and all that stuff in there, instead of doing it the way I'm doing it now. The way I'm doing it now, it requires a little bit of surgery, some planning, some measuring, so you don't basically cut a big hole type deal. For the rear, it's not a problem because everything's open, so you're good there. But it's just the front. You gotta make sure you're in line with the rib, and you have enough room so that you can adhere the actual tube, the brass tube, with the ply assembly inside, touching the side of the rib. And so the jury strut just comes apart like that. All right, as you could see, it slides out. I'm just using one hand. It has a little bit of friction, that way it's not flopping all over the place, going in and out during flight. All right, so as you can see that to my, all right, and so that's how that is. All right, and then you can see I got the ply, and you can see the brass in there. All right, and that brass, once again, is sandwiched between some basswood, and then also sandwiched in with some ply. So it's basically like this. Sandwich it together like that. in there, and it's glued. And then I got a ply sheet that is also glued on both sides, kind of encasing that that brass tube. All right. And so with this, when we're assembling this thing out in the field, it's just pretty much just like this. All right, I'll go ahead and insert that through there, insert that to the back, and just basically slowly work it down. As you can see, just one hand and goes in there, and then we go ahead and attach our screws. And now inside the on the hole, I went ahead and I soaked that with thin CA. All right, and I allowed it to cure completely before we went ahead and rethreaded. And once we rethreaded again, I took the screw back out and I went ahead and I added thin CA once more, just to basically harden the blocks so that we have better grip for the screw and it doesn't back out. All right, so yep, so basically this is it in a nutshell. So just like that. So we got our jury strut onto our main wing. All right, complete assembly, just like that. All right, so this left wing is done. I just need to go over here, do the same thing for the right wing. All right, so at the moment right now, what I got is just a hole punched in into that sheeting right at the rib. The back end is already done, it's just the front. And so we will mark that out. And I already got a small piece of ply, same size as that side. All right, making sure that we're even. All right, so we got this ply, and this is the ply piece just like that, which I will basically plop over that hole, cut it out, and we're good to go. All right,